You'll have the finest view in the vertical city of the last natural earthen forest, including a still-living volcano. Own a piece of the natural world through your own radiation-protected bubble apartment, starting at a charming 250 square feet.
The flooding? They're not controlling the flooding. It's completely out of their grasp. Anyone who believes that this is somehow a choice is a complete...
Dirt raiders. Punks and thieves. Underneath the city in the tunnels, there's room for all of us. Old buildings that the government wants sacrificed to floods, these are our heritage. The cool old city. And there's a thriving black market filled with vendors that cater to our needs. We still need some forbidden pleasures, right? What are you waiting for? Don't you want to feel?
Look, the off-gridders completely crave dirt. Filth. Nature is what keeps us alive. We can add all those enhancements and keep it sanitary. No. No! I do not need to see it to create it virtually. I don't need to put myself through reality to give you guys the best show possible. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to drop some more credits for more special content.
The Sun Show is about to begin. Keep your virtual stream on and be sure to follow this year's lucky contestants. Is it you? You won't know till you win the game.
You'll have the finest view in the vertical city of the last natural earthen forest, including a still living volcano. Own a piece of the natural world through your own radiation-protected bubble apartment, starting at a charming 250 square feet.
The flooding, they're not controlling the flooding. It's completely out of their grasp. Anyone who believes that this is somehow a choice is a complete
Dirt raiders, punks and thieves. Underneath the city in the tunnels, there's room for all of us. Old buildings that the government wants sacrificed to floods, these are our heritage. The cool old city. And there's a thriving black market filled with vendors that cater to our needs. Pleasures, right? What are you waiting for? Don't you want to feel?
Look, the off-gridders completely crave dirt, filth. Nature is what keeps us alive. We can add all those enhancements and keep it sanitary. No. No! I do not need to see it to create it virtually. I don't need to put myself through reality to give you guys the best show possible. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to drop some more credits for more special content.
The Sun Show is about to begin. Keep your virtual stream on and be sure to follow this year's lucky contestants. Is it you? You won't know till you win the game.
Hello, I'm Damaso Rodriguez, Artistic Director of Artists Rep in Portland, Oregon. Thank you for joining us today for this live webcast of a reading of Elaine Romero's beautiful play, Walk into the Sea. I'd like to acknowledge that I am on the traditional lands of the Atfalati, Cowlitz, Tualatin Kalapuya, and Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. If you'd like to research the land on which you reside, download the app Native Land. It can take GPS coordinates and tell you which tribes have made or make their homes in your area. We begin with this in hope that acknowledgement brings about respect and change in how we support tribal communities. I encourage you today to take a moment to learn about the indigenous cultures in the places you've called home. Today's presentation will be a live reading. If we were able to safely assemble in a theater, this would be a staged reading. The actors would carry binders containing their scripts, and they would in the event of technical difficulties, we'll do our best to troubleshoot quickly, and we'll communicate with you if we need to pause for any reason. Thanks in advance for your patience and understanding. And you have to sign off early. The recording of today's webcast will be available
The recording of today's webcast will be available through April 1st. I'm sorry that Damaso has frozen, hence our first technical difficulty, but we will continue on. This is Christine Willis, and I am going to start the rest of our event. Thank you so much for joining us.
Walk into the Sea by Elaine Romero. Setting: Orange County, California. Set: a flexible space on which the play takes place influenced by the play's metaphors. Characters: Karl, a molecular biologist who teaches at a university. Virginia, his wife, an artist. Edward, their 13-year-old son. Karl and Edward and the sea. Karl steps out of the scene. Virginia paints them. Karl addresses the audience using a slideshow to punctuate his points. These images are not literal representations, but abstract ones, very much in alignment with what we later understand to be the nature of Virginia's art. The first slide approximates DNA strands.
I've been thinking a lot about what's solid and what's fragile, about what I believed and what she believed, and about what happened to our egg, and about him, Edward, our son. Maybe when shared, I won't look as implicated as I feel. That would be refreshing. To be innocent in your eyes, not my own. I have this little meditation I do where I replace disturbing images with animated DNA strands, and sometimes it helps. There's nothing more soothing than a good idea. I came up with a theory about viruses creating humans. People told me they thought it could make a big splash, like an egg.
A shift. Karl and his son, Edward, are together on stage in the distant past. Edward seems normal, engaged, and interested, a younger version of himself.
Come on, Dad, show me how to fly a kite.
Too windy out.
What's the best time to fly a kite?
That's the best time to get hung up in a telephone line and get electrocuted.
We could go to the beach. There aren't any telephone lines there. We could run along the beach with a kite.
It's only 1 o'clock.
So?
It's a Wednesday. I've got to finish an article. Publish or perish. We'll fly the kite on Saturday.
A shift.
It's been raining forever. Now there's no way to fly a kite. We could play chess. You could teach me again how to move the knight.
Or you can watch TV.
I could watch TV.
A shift. Edward, Karl, and Virginia revolve around each other, each inhabiting their space of coexistence. It might be an abstraction of the worlds they inhabit through the play, but with some moments of connection. Shift. Karl returns to the present. An image representing the egg splashing shows on his slideshow.
People told me they thought it could make a big splash, like an egg. Maybe Virginia was right, and we all three stumbled into the world together by mistake. I don't believe in fate. Or I didn't. I'm not sure what I believe. I used to be sure-footed scientist with a virus theory to convey. My memory is faulty, as am I. Scientists, like all humans, need to be reassured that what we do is right, that how we love has meaning, that theory, when connected to human experience, offers illumination on this dark path called life. Before the wife and son, there was this notion of falling in love.
A shift. Into the past. Virginia and Karl meet for their first blind date.
Is that Carl?
No, K. It's the German spelling.
Are you German?
No, Mexican. Genetically, we're all pretty much the same. There really is no identifiable difference when you look at one's DNA to distinguish a black person from a white person or a brown person from a brown person. That is to say, humans invented race. Nature didn't.
I like that.
Yeah, that's my specialty, virology. Viruses have gotten a bad rap that's undeserved. Viruses might be responsible for the origin of life, if what I believe is true, and I believe it because when I know what I know, I just know it. It would turn the whole field of molecular biology on its head. It's like if you thought God was way up in heaven and then found out he was really in the center of the earth, and everyone would be like, wow, God isn't where we imagined him at all.
You don't believe in God.
Does that bother you?
I guess if God exists, he needs to get on the stick and do a better job of it.
You might be brave. I might like that about you.
Do you always qualify everything you say?
There's usually a theory involved in support of a hypothesis. In this case, I was saying might to express possibility.
Is there possibility? Potentiality?
If not probability?
I like that. I like the way you reduce us, into a scientific framework. Tell me about your real work. My teachers always said I had an aptitude for science.
Who set us up again?
You forgot?
I've been absorbed in my work.
Sometimes when I'm painting, it's like I'm stuck inside the world of the painting, and the real world feels like the imagined one. It's like the illusory depiction of reality is more real than reality itself. I don't know what I'm saying.
You know exactly what you're saying.
I can get so lost in that place. I'm loath to come out of it. I'd rather starve. I'd rather digest myself. I know how unreachable I've become. Sometimes I think I'm the kind of artist who needs her own planet to get her work done. Is that silly? To need so much private space and time? Sometimes I feel like I need years unscheduled and unmarked just before I can pick up my paintbrush. But how can a person who's like that, how can she include others? And I want, desire others, another. Because if an artist lived in her world alone, she'd be empty. And when she sat down in front of her canvas to paint, nothing would come out, void of pictures. And there's nothing sadder in this world than an artist with no pictures in her head. But I guess painters paint. I think Sophia thought...
Sophia, of course.
We'd be compatible because we're both workaholics and we'd respect each other's space and orbit around each other in silence.
Would you?
I don't know if I could get lost in a painting if I lived with someone else. I'd always know that they could walk into the room at any moment, and if they looked at it askance, it would be like they were stealing it away from me with their eyes. And I'd be screaming, "Stop, stop, it's mine." But they have already taken it. And Sophia fancies me an intellectual, like you. She says every once in a while you get philosophical in your biology, and she likes that about you.
Sophia said?
She likes that about you.
Flattering.
Don't get your feathers too puffed up. She's married.
Do I strike you that way? As philosophical?
I'm just going on what Sophia says.
Is she a good friend?
I don't know.
Do you think you could trust her with your life?
I'm not sure.
Do you think you could trust me?
This is lunch, right? That's a dinner question.
Lunch and dinner have different questions.
Why do you think single women make such an effort to keep it to lunch?
Interesting inquiry.
It's not an inquiry, it's food, men.
Do you see yourself getting married someday?
If I'm going to answer a question like that, Karl with a K, it's going to be over a filet mignon.
Would you like to go to dinner tonight? It seems the only way I can really get to know you.
I'm more relaxed at dinner. I'm not thinking about getting back to my studio.
What are you thinking about? And then, over dinner. How's your steak?
Like butter. How's yours? You ordered fish?
Yes, I like fish.
Oh, a Pacific Ocean kind of guy.
Mhm.
Aren't you going to ask me if I see myself getting married? I've got my steak, medium rare.
I was going to warm up to that.
We don't have to warm up. It's dinner.
I like your rules. They're entertaining.
I've been told that.
Men like your rules?
I'm entertaining. The answer is no. I don't see myself getting married. You're about to change your answer for me. I see it in your face. You do see yourself getting married. You don't want to turn me off, so you're going to bring it all into doubt just to please me. It's flattering, really, but don't succumb to the idea of foregoing marriage just for me.
I see myself getting married.
And Sophia sees me getting married. Married people do resent single people. It's the freedom we have. They've given it up and they won't feel secure until we've given it up too. We can't have our friends sleeping with whoever they want when we've chosen just the one.
Karl leans in and kisses her.
What was that?
A feeble attempt to not warm up?
A shift. Virginia pulls out a blank canvas. She lifts up her brush to paint, musing over the canvas with her brush before putting anything down.
She made the shift. For me. And claimed she'd never meant what she'd said. And I allowed her to do it. I had been brewing my virus theory for some time. Molecular biology. I can't remember now when it became fully formed, but with each passing day, it became truer and truer until it became less true. Until it turned on me like Judas to Jesus.
Virginia begins to paint, and when she starts, it flows. She's confident and self-assured, creating without the interruption of thought.
It went like this. Could viruses be responsible for the very creation of life? I knew they were responsible for the diversity of life, but could they also be responsible for life itself? Could viruses be the reason that we exist at all? Could they be the first cause of creation? My body took to hers so fast. She never wanted children. I captured her. She got absorbed in my eyes. She became my hostage. She started living my dream. She got pregnant right away. No time to think, no time to consider, no reflection. Our lives spun forward in their inevitability.
A shift. It is the past. Karl watches Virginia as she stares at her newspaper. She is pregnant. Something strikes her like a match, and she begins doodling on her newspaper with a pencil, clearly drawing something specific.
It's not polite to stare.
Do you want a boy or a girl?
I want it out.
How's the temperature?
Imperfect.
It's supposed to rain tomorrow.
The rain.
I'll believe it when I feel it on my face.
You should move up to the northwest if you like the rain.
Why would I move where you aren't?
You like the mist in the air.
I've never lived in the rain.
The rain has lived in you.
I had an upsetting dream.
Since when did you, Karl with a K, believe in upsetting dreams? Scratch my name for me on my back.
He lifts up her shirt and scratches her back.
What do you want, boy or girl?
I think there might be something wrong with the baby.
What's stronger, your scientific training or the Mexican superstitions woven tightly into your DNA?
You've mastered the art of incisive criticism. I taught you that. In my dream.
Look, we've checked. We've prodded. They put a needle in my belly and broke the sac. We could buy the brightest, softest sheets in the world and spend a whole day in bed.
From morning until night?
You'd trace me with your hands. You'd find places you've never found before.
I know you.
Not like this.
She completed 11 paintings during her pregnancy. She'd sketch the prototype on a newspaper and then transfer it onto canvas. Her paintings were exquisite. They made me see her. And then one day he arrived into our house and all we could do was stare. There was a time we didn't know him, a time we thought he was something that he wasn't, a time we dared to dream about the possibilities, the potentialities, the hope.
A shift, the past, a little later.
I didn't expect him to be so small.
Our responsibility.
Yes.
He scares me.
Me too.
The way he cries.
And doesn't.
A loud complaint.
And silence.
I don't know what he wants.
Such a tiny human being.
Infinitesimal. Like a cell.
A combination of our DNA.
Our son.
A beautiful son.
Time shifts to the present.
For a time, my virus theory helps me make sense of the world. I start connecting the theory to my life. All scientists do that. Maybe it's a game we play. Maybe it's a game we should stop playing with our lives. I became obsessed with the addiction module. It goes like this. When there are a pair of genes, one encodes a long-lived toxin and the other a short-lived antitoxin. I'm sure that means nothing to you unless you're a molecular biologist, which you might be, but put together, the toxin and the antitoxin reach a stable yet addictive state. So I go about everything, identifying everything as either a toxin or an antitoxin. Even my wife. Even my wife. My theory steals my passion. And when something steals your passion, your wife intuitively knows. She fights for her place in you. I'm getting ahead of myself. Our beautiful son was broken. Broken, they said. No words came out of his mouth. My wife starts introducing a new toxin into our world. She seeks refuge from our pain somewhere else. It threatens our addiction module. It threatens our own addictive yet stable state. It's a toxin called religion.
Every belief requires faith.
It steals her passion.
A shift. Karl steps into the past with her.
There's no scientific belief that doesn't require some kind of leap. Maybe that's what belief is, the step you take between accepting nothing and accepting everything. You act like I've taken a leap and you haven't. But you take a leap every day. You publish your ideas in academic journals. You wait for others to confirm that you are right. You stay up nights worrying about the infection rates of algae. You think you're descended from a monkey? You suspect that fatal viruses might be good because it could cause human beings to evolve. What kind of leap is that? You want everyone in the world to take your leap with you. But I don't need to stare at the genetic makeup of a piece of seaweed to understand why I walk this earth. I found something, and the joy of discovering that is just as exciting to me as DNA is to you. I can't explain it.
I'm not asking you to explain it.
What makes you so afraid of God?
What makes you so afraid to take a step without him? I dare you to risk offending him, Virginia.
I think you believe in God. You just don't like him.
It's not about my atheism.
Your anti-theism.
Are we the only couple who fights about the existence of God? I mean, this has been going on for 6 months straight. I need some promise of relief.
I'm not changing my beliefs because of you. I mean, just because the world says you're smarter.
Oh, don't start.
Says you should know more. I don't really know why I should just subjugate my will to...
Yet, the New Testament teaches that wives should be silent at church.
This isn't church. Don't preach my Bible to me.
This is ridiculous.
No, it's essential, Karl.
For whom?
You and your theories. You and your dissection of the human species to what? A virus? I mean, is that not the most absurd, sacrilegious nonsense since Darwin?
Oh, you used to love science. And you know that takes Darwin to task.
And I'm supposed to sit by while you teach this to undergraduates, while you take the time out of us to write papers and go on lecture tours and...
So it's the time that you resent.
The time out of Edward as he looks at us in his silence. Does your theory take the space of your son?
Space to me and space to you differ. Space and energy are non-equivalents.
I think you know it does. I think you know how your theory lives in opposition to all those who love you. Decide. Decide which it will be. Your theory or us. There's not enough space for both of it.
Oh, space again.
You have yours out in the stratosphere while your son and I slog it out on Earth.
I have to work.
What about my painting? Or am I supposed to just forget?
The stratosphere is closer than you think, darling.
It was a metaphor, Karl.
Only 7 to 31 miles above the Earth. Clouds are less likely to form there.
He's your flesh.
Edward liked the stratosphere. He's the kid who, when he was 7 years old, on a bumpy airline flight, dared to ask.
If clouds are less likely to form in the stratosphere, Dad, why don't we just raise the planet?
Okay, the logic was a little shaky, but it was a brave question. The type of intellectual inquiry I expected from my son. Before the silence, he had the imagination to lift planets.
Has, Karl.
Our beautiful son was broken. Out of the autistic spectrum disorders, like we know anything about anything, they called it Asperger's syndrome. A doctor called the condition high-functioning autism once, which gave me comfort. And then another doctor took it away. We've seen them all. All the doctors assured me a high IQ was buried somewhere in there. Why did I care about a high IQ? The cause of the problem? Likely caused by some odd combination of genetic components that have yet to be identified. I've identified them. Not scientifically, emotionally. I'd identified that those genetic vulnerabilities had come from me. Edward was also electively mute. That was his own personal touch. A little gift to make us wonder if we were losing our minds. Electively mute from ages 7 to 13. 6 long years of silence. We tried everything. At least I think we did. Me, a virologist, hopeful to cure all, and yet we'd look at him. A little in the fracture between two hemispheres, and part of us would fall with him, sinking feeling in the heart, the arms and the mind, sinking, sunk feeling like an anchor inside my chest. Can't breathe, can't get out, can't save the one person I'm responsible for on this earth. Can't. Just can't. And I wonder if Edward was the virus that caused her to change.
He has the imagination to lift planets, Karl. He's a genius, your son.
Edward enters unseen.
I love Edward. This way, that other way. I love him.
I love our dog. I love the beach. Damn, I even love you. I love the way the sun glistens in your hair when you're reading by the pool and it makes the black look red. I love the brownness of your eyes when they pierce right into me.
You love me.
We have got to come to some new place. I can't.
Edward and Virginia exit.
And that's all she said. Though I suspected other words simmered behind that tight skin wrapped around her face. No space. No room for the other. And I would hear it. The inevitable tete-a-tete. And she would say it in that Virginia way, that non-committed, apologetic excuse for herself sort of way, as if she were backing down and confronting me with the same words. And then a few days later, she said, almost 6 months to the date after she'd found God.
Karl sits at his desk and reads a magazine. Virginia and Edward enter.
It's not you. It's really not you.
What's really not me?
My decision.
I don't know about what decision.
I'm telling you right now.
Has something happened?
I want a divorce.
What?
A disruption of the status quo. I want a dissolution of this.
This.
These opposing ends. We used to be on the same side, us against the world, remember?
We're on the same side. It just makes it hard with Edward. And with this new belief system, I'll adjust.
It doesn't matter now.
Please stay.
You forced me to stay here, to be your wife, and I am honored. But I want to walk away, walk out into the water, walk out into the sea.
You want to walk on water?
I want to feel my feet dissolve beneath me.
You want to do this life alone?
Perhaps.
That's a strong position for once.
It is.
I don't believe you.
No, I want a divorce. I'm rather serious about it.
About doing this life alone. No. You see another option. Another person to take the space of me. I know you. You mutate before my eyes.
Hurt?
No, not hurt. Just
stung. You're stung, but you won't admit it.
Where's he from?
Mexican Catholic. That's what you are. A man whose parents who managed to stay together even as they tore each other apart until it killed your mother. Such a rich tradition of love and fidelity in a marriage. Our role models. Is that what you want?
You attack my family?
I'm your family too. Or is the half-life on that infinite?
You want to walk into the water, walk out into the sea.
It was a fleeting feeling, Karl.
You want to break free. A sign of genius to be what he is. Says so right here. They don't say a word for years, and then one day, Mozart.
She looks at the magazine over his shoulder.
Viruses become an explanation for all the world. Better than God and less intrusive. Just like the toxin and the antitoxin, in order for good to exist at all, an element of harm must coexist with it. Good needs harm, needs hurt, in order to exist at all. These mute, autistic geniuses don't say a word for years, and then one day, Mozart. I wish I could see this duality in Edward. I don't understand it yet, so I suffer. And I try to change my wife to think like me, and she resists, saying,
I want to find someone standing in the ocean and to have him call my name, Virginia.
Virginia.
Not you, someone else.
Or that's what I imagined. Because I don't know how to be anybody else. I silence myself and I walk away. I retreat to my work, lecture across the country, refine my theory aloud until I get it just right. Because it's not until I hear myself talk that I know what I really believe.
Karl lectures.
So, what makes us different from the chimpanzees? I argue that it's not some kind of evolutionary Darwinian process that happened randomly. Why, that belief might take as much faith as creationism itself. I suggest that evolution was directly caused by viruses. Viruses that invaded us and colonized the genetic material in our chromosomes, our genomes.
You think God is a virus?
Maybe I did. And some things shouldn't be worshipped with your whole heart. They don't deserve it.
A shift. Edward sits in front of the television. Virginia crosses to him, touches his back. He doesn't turn. She kneels in front of him and grabs his hand, looking at it. He doesn't respond. She exits. Edward becomes completely engaged in a show, laughing and moving as if he completely comprehends what he sees, and as if he sees it for the first time.
The boy knew how to run with a suggestion, an undetected native intelligence. First confession. When it rained for those several weeks in sunny California, when I couldn't fly the kite, he did what I told him. He watched TV. Was the function continuous or discrete? Did he decline over time or all at once? I'm going to say it was the former, but I felt like the latter.
Virginia starts to draw something on the newspaper. It doesn't work. She rips it up. She exits.
Edward was stuck in an endless loop. Sisyphus sitting in my living room. He never interacted or acknowledged my presence. He watched TV for years, 6 years to be exact. Doctor said I should not take Edward's withdrawal from interpersonal interactions personally. So, if he seemed aloof, schizoid, or isolated, that was just the way he was supposed to be. It was a mere reflection of his social impairment. But to me, it seemed like something had switched off inside him, and I just wanted to get him back to where he was before he flipped that switch. It was never my intent to force him into a self-imposed exile, to cause an atrophy of his curiosity. It was only my intent to work, to discover. Is that so bad? Is that a prosecutable offense? One's work? You decide. I used to have fantasies that Edward would spring back and I'd teach him to fly kites, play chess, or counsel him in my infinite wisdom on the ways of women and girls. But instead, the erratic white noise of the television filled our house. And me, in my study, trying to concentrate, shuffling papers and reshuffling them again, trying to recreate something new while I was the one I had created lay lifeless at home. I flunked fatherhood long ago. I have no illusions, but I still dream that Edward will come home. Edward, come over here. Edward! Edward!
Edward finally comes.
You adopted the dog. You smiled at the dog. Feed him.
Edward returns to the television.
Edward! Before she gave up on us, she tried. She really tried.
Karl feeds the dog. Virginia enters.
The doctor says you're supposed to let Edward do that, develop his sense of social responsibility.
I'm well aware of what the doctor says. Can we just feed the damn dog?
It's a learning experiment for Edward.
No, it's a mammal. And I'd like to think that the mammals that live in my house eat.
You can water him.
He's not a plant.
It's better for Edward. It will draw him out.
I don't think the dog chewing off his own leg would draw out Edward. I don't think the dog chewing off Edward's leg would draw out Edward. I think this illusion that Edward can connect to another living being is an illusion that you and I have nurtured for far too long. Edward isn't coming out for anyone.
The whole church group has prayed every day for the last 5 months that Edward will get better, that by some miracle he will be released.
You pray for Edward to die?
There's a minister coming to town. He puts his bare hands on people's foreheads and they get better. I'm taking him tomorrow night.
You're taking Edward to a faith healer.
I don't know if he's a faith healer. He prays for people and they get better.
That's what a faith healer is, Virginia.
We tried everything else, please.
How is Edward going to feel when that minister or preacher person puts his hands on Edward's head and nothing happens? How is he going to feel then? Like a failure? Like someone even God can't heal?
I won't stop trying. I can't stop trying. I'm his mother.
Take him then. Try.
You don't believe.
I never said I believed in God.
In Edward. You don't believe in Edward. I might have given up my art for him, but at least I didn't give up on him. You have failed as a father.
I wish he would have said those things. Virginia used to love science. Did I tell you? And then one day, it tipped the other way. She felt failed by science. It was a lot like Edward. Virginia had given up her art to care for Edward. Made a silent sacrifice. I let her do it and didn't say a word. He stole her heart. It left her hoping for a miracle. It made her susceptible. It left room, and I left room for something to take my place. I don't know what I was working on the day of her conversion. She wanted me to go to the movies with her, and I'd said, no, why don't you go out with your friends instead? And she really didn't want to go to this rock concert. It turns out to be a Christian rock concert where 100% of the songs are about Jesus. But her friends had played her the music and it sounded normal except for the lyrics. And I'd been on the road and she hadn't had any moment away from him. So I told her to go have fun and to jot down some of the lyrics so we could laugh at them that night in bed. Because we like to do that. We like to criticize the rest of the world from our bed. A universe unto us, Virginia and me. And she came in that night and her eyes were red from crying. And she had a raincoat on and her hair was wet. She was looking down at the ground, terrified. And when she walked in, as though I might catch her rebel baptism in her eyes, she finally looked up as if to say,
I've betrayed you.
But didn't. Or maybe.
I went and fucked God and left you at home. And boy, did he have a big cock.
The Virginia in my head always talked like a man. Everything all right?
Yeah.
Pretty hokey, huh?
Actually, it was pretty good.
If you ignore the lyrics and the fact that you are sitting inside Cavalry Chapel.
The lyrics actually were pretty good. I like them.
How could you like them?
Tonight I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior.
Oh, Christ.
Oh, I know you're not trying to be funny.
Maybe we could go out to dinner tomorrow night and be alone for a while. I know you've been asking for me.
I've got Bible study.
Already?
It's not enough to accept the Lord. You have to read his word.
I wondered how I could get my Virginia back.
Don't worry, Karl.
I wanted to shake her and say, take it back. Tell God no. Tell God you already have a spouse.
Well, we have a Bible study on Wednesdays, and on Thursdays, church choir. On Fridays, we witness to...
And as I heard her trail off her list of religious commitments, I realized God was committing adultery with my wife.
They say that when someone becomes a new Christian, that God should just lock them away because they're so excited that they want to share his good word with the whole world. But you can't just do that. And turns people off.
She giggled.
This is the most important thing I've ever done. More important than marrying you and having Edward.
Well, maybe she didn't say that. God had invaded, and he wasn't welcome.
Time shifts. Karl has a suitcase in his hand.
I'll only be gone a week.
What kind of conference is that?
5 days plus 2 travel days. I'm touched you'll miss me.
I have other commitments.
Well, get a babysitter then.
He's 13.
We're not leaving him alone.
I don't think we should have any fears.
Do you leave him alone?
I've got it all covered. You'll just have to trust me.
Virginia begins to hold him.
We could go to our room. We could really talk. We could bury the idea of this silly divorce.
I've got other commitments.
We could spend a whole day in bed like you wanted.
That was 14 years ago.
For these last 14 years, I've had the deepest regret that I didn't take you up on it.
You had an article due, a tenure maker or breaker. Your mind frightens me, frankly. You never forget one conversation.
We're imprinted on each other, Virginia.
I don't think I was made for you. Your photographic memory, the brutality of the unforgotten.
I'd like my day in bed.
He cups her face in his hands.
Could a day of fucking been our salvation?
Why don't you go on your trip?
You're lovely today.
It's just the light out. It makes everything.
You've been painting.
All morning.
Since when?
6 or so. I woke up and it was there, the painting. A painting comes to visit once, like a dead spirit coming to say goodbye. You believe in spirits, don't you? You're a Mexican.
May I see it?
I don't think you like it.
Oh, I love your work. A lot of people don't like abstract art, but I think it has a depth of emotion. May I?
I'd just rather not.
You've created something, and I want to see it. I mean, you never paint. Your studio just sits there.
No, it's nothing.
Maybe it would help for me to see what's on your mind.
Pastor Carlton says I should try, that though we are unequally yoked, like a couple of cows, I don't know, the apparatus around a cow's head or something about carrying something and the load is different. When one person is a Christian, the other person isn't. The weight distribution is all messed up.
I'd love to see your painting.
Virginia walks out and re-enters with her easel. She rolls it in such a way that the painting is not visible. She takes a peek at the painting, careful not to turn the easel toward Karl.
I shouldn't. It's bad luck. Because once you see it through someone else's eyes, you make it a stranger to you, your work. I hate this. I know I should be working on this marriage. I know it's the Christian thing to do, but my painting is mine.
I don't show you a paper in the works.
I wouldn't understand a paper in the works.
I can teach you. You used to be good at science. Your questions always amazed me.
Asking you about biology in bed.
I loved that. They were good questions. Good enough questions for me to make you my wife.
You married me for my brainy genes?
But I was the one with the rotten one.
You've proven something to yourself that no one else in the world dares claim to know. It could have been anything.
Virginia rubs Karl's shoulders.
That feels good.
Are you flying out of John Wayne?
Long Beach.
You're going to miss your plane.
I could just take a peek and say nothing.
It would be like you looked at my photo. I mean, if I were a Native American and you were a frontier photographer or photographer from out east and you took my picture and I became enslaved in that photo. My soul was just caught in that photo paper,
Well, I wouldn't want to steal your soul.
You don't believe in soul. Even void of God, you don't think anything dwells beyond the brain. When I sit next to you in an airplane, I can tell that flying makes you think of your own mortality. You don't have to have that feeling. Oh God, I'm such a piss poor witness for the Lord. You're going to miss your plane.
Karl walks over to the easel. It looks as if Virginia will stop him. He turns the easel around so he can see it. The painting is of a cross with a well-rendered rose in its crux. She waits.
You limit yourself. You're an abstract artist.
You judge. And artists should never resign to being just one thing. It's creative suicide.
It's just, you have so much talent. Your paintings used to be so sophisticated, so many shades and intricacies, so much emotion.
This painting has that.
You flatlined.
Objectively, it's good work. It's just the subject you just don't like. You can't just be happy that I'm painting again, that I was able to get the brush moving again. Wasn't that our agreement when we got married? You take the university job so I could paint? I'm painting.
I'm fighting for you. I'm gonna miss my plane.
Oh, miss your goddamn plane.
Hey, I'll miss my goddamn plane so I can stay home and we can fuck like bunnies.
Pastor Carlton says this happens all the time when one person is a Christian and the other isn't. The non-Christian just doesn't understand. Yes, you're a non-Christian now. Just go to your conference on genomes or whatever. Go to Miami or wherever. I'll be fine. I'll finish the painting.
It's just not you.
Stop judging my painting.
I know what's inside you, and I won't let you kill her.
Let me change.
Of course you can change. Dynamic states are essential to the development and the complexity of life.
Let me be that. What if you heard something one day and it just clicked for you? From that moment, you believed in God. You knew he was there just dwelling inside you. And what if the next day you had to give a paper at a conference about evolution, something you knew deep inside he was opposed to? What would you do?
You're asking me to think hypothetically about something that's quantifiably unthinkable to me.
So you're just as limited by the scientific method as I am by anything you say I am. Each time you make a, quote, discovery, you've introduced just one more limiting factor into our lives. And in those 14 years, Karl, you have introduced innumerable limiting factors. You're choking us. You're choking me. But I've taken it like a sport, like a good wife. You've looked at my painting even though I told you what it would do to me. Go to Miami.
It's only for a week.
Go receive their adulation for your work.
Are you going to be okay? Sure.
Sure.
As Karl gets ready to leave, he goes to hug her, but she will not have him. He kisses her on the side of her head, but she doesn't loosen. He lifts his bag to go and leaves. Edward enters, unnoticed. Virginia begins to paint over her painting with dark paint, ruining it. Edward reaches up and grabs her hand to stop her. Virginia looks down at him and touches his head. It's as if Edward is connecting for the first time. He pulls her away from the painting and brings her to the television. Virginia sits cross-legged with Edward, staring at the TV beside him. A shift. Karl lectures and shows slides.
Instead of seeing viruses as infecting us with disease and making us weak, consider that they infect us with genes and make us stronger, thus furthering our evolution. What if persistent viruses took up residence within us and became a major creative force in our development as human beings? Our concept of what a virus is has to shift. It is no longer something we think of as negative, but creative and dynamic. And what makes us different from the chimpanzees? Maybe it's the existence of a colonizing virus that made us divergent from the chimpanzees in the first place. The evidence lies in the Y chromosome. It's the DNA present there that distinguishes us from the chimpanzee. A humbling thought, but true. In order for something to develop and become more complex, like a human being versus a chimpanzee, it has to be open to other parasites and agents. If something is open to a parasite, it's susceptible to change. It becomes dynamic and evolving because of the persistent presence of that parasite's relationship to it. Conversely, if it isn't susceptible, then it doesn't change and remains inert. Virus persists, creates human. Chimpanzee is never exposed to virus, never changes, never develops. The complexity of a human being has never been challenged by a host virus to do so. The only difference between the human and the chimpanzee is the prolonged exposure to an agent that has caused the human to genetically complicate itself in response to it.
A shift. Karl returns home. He takes in the destroyed painting.
You think change is necessary. You just don't like the way I'm changing.
A cross with a rose.
Yes, it was.
In my living room.
Edward is in your living room.
I know.
Next, you'll tell me Edward is a virus.
He's present and persistent, and he has caused us to change.
You've already thought of him that way. Edward is human, not parasitic. All the world is not leeching off you. We do not all exist in order to compromise the host.
That is a very old-fashioned understanding of biology.
You've got to show me some mercy. I want to fill the world with my art, but that judgment from behind your desk.
What judgment?
When you lean back in your chair and you put your feet on your desk, your legs crossed at the ankles, you know the pose.
I'm stretching.
Now there's an ironic self-perception.
We've got Edward.
We've got Edward.
We can't keep alienating each other.
Edward understands.
Edward. But he's
He's what?
not here. Miami makes a big splash, like a wave. 2 weeks later, the phone call comes. Major publisher. New York Times bestsellers stacked sideways on their shelves. An opportunity to publish in layman's terms the origin of our species. Darwin's theory will become extinct like a trilobite. I begin to see everything around me like through the veil of addiction modules. Addiction modules that people and society sign up for so they can remain firm in their opposing positions, soothed that they alone are right. Justified in their intolerance as they whirl around each other, unable to change. I become absorbed in the possibility of my world being different. My theory offers an alternative where people aren't dependent on religion or family, where they operate independently of these constraints. I observe the solace people find in their stale relationships, and I see myself as rising above them, living as no other person has lived before, pure, untouched by influences outside of myself. I won't be bound by systems which bring false comfort to others. I'm above them. Virginia has created the room, the space to use her paradigm, for me to try this new existence. So I withdraw even more from her, from the ultimate addiction module called marriage. I escape the feeling that I need her to believe in viruses, which she still sees as evil infectious agents, though I have painstakingly explained to her otherwise. I begin to see myself a little like Edward, in the room, but not of it. When I feel a pang of sympathy for him, I curb it and I go to my study. I'm free of trying to resolve the irresolvable. I appreciate Edward for what he is, an agent that has brought me change. A virus. Second confession. I retreat back into my work. I discover that if I write this book, I'll change the world. There will be no more wars in this viral-inspired paradise. No human will die for religion or philosophical differences. Extremism will be stomped out like a pterodactyl. I see myself upon a stage, book in hand, accepting accolades. I am the messiah of a new world that doesn't seek to extinguish itself with wrongly held convictions. I am the messiah of a world that can rationally trace its origins. I am the messiah of a freedom humans have never known. And I'm the first to feel it. The first to see things as they truly are. I am the messiah.
Virginia enters, papers in hand.
I'm proceeding. If you could just sign these, that would help.
Are you sure about this?
I've been sure.
Okay, then.
Aren't you going to fight?
I'm giving you a divorce. I'm giving you everything you've asked of me.
I've got to go. I have a date.
What?
I have a date.
With a guy from church? Is the guy married?
Of course not.
You are.
I'm aware of that.
So this guy is just some single white guy who goes to church?
Divorced.
A divorced Christian.
Christians get divorced.
How long?
What do you care, Karl? You've got your work.
I just want to know how long.
3 weeks?
While I was in Miami?
Do with it what you will. The information is yours to have. Study it, analyze it, make a judgment.
You been sleeping with him?
We're Christians.
So what? You've been
It's
holding
not-
hands?
Not like that.
Like what?
You just have this way of twisting everything around to make yourself look good. It's not like anything you say.
Like adultery?
It's not like that.
You're still my wife.
Well, you just sign the papers. You can't just keep guilting me and drawing me into a shouting match when you know this marriage is so thoroughly over. You act like you're some kind of knight, like you're some sort of savior to this marriage. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see you care 5 minutes about this marriage. 5 minutes, that's all. Me, a priority. Me, the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning. Me, our future. I'm so not on your radar screen. I didn't even make it into your lab. You checked me at the door. You checked me at the altar. You checked me at the altar. I mean, you might as well have left me standing up there alone. It's like I married myself and I'm supposed to show up every day, but it's just me. And I married you to be with someone. To you, I'm something to put off until later. Well, it's later and you never showed up. You want to put this divorce on me because I'm the one asking for it? When you have asked for it in your actions every day, you have been begging for it. Sure, I found someone I like who likes me. So what? I like him. I'm not ashamed of that. I really like him, and I can see a future with him, with somebody who's there. Sure, he's not as fancy as you. He doesn't write books, and nobody would attend his lecture if he had a subject. He doesn't have a subject. He doesn't have that mistress. So he was married before. We all make mistakes. That we do. But I look at this other man, and he has heart. I mean, he loves me with his whole heart. And if I'm not there, he feels it. And I like that because when I talk to him, he feels every little bit of what I'm saying. I have to be careful because he is gentle enough that I can hurt him. He shows up. He's 100% home. And I think that's all I need, that emotional connection. So I'm checking out like you checked out. And don't look at me with those pathetic crocodile tears are welling up when you've been too chicken to be a husband. Shame on you. I have tried to be your wife with everything inside me. I have tried. If you have a heartbeat, you haven't let me felt it. I just wanted to feel it. That's all. Stupid because I believed in love. A real idiot, me. So you won. It's like this game and you won and you're acting like you lost. You never gave of yourself and I gave all of me. So you won. You got it all, down to my genes with a G and my DNA. Everybody makes mistakes.
You're saying we were a mistake?
Just sign below the post-it, Karl.
We weren't a mistake.
Please. For me. You can't say I didn't try.
Karl signs.
See? Not that hard.
We'll deal with our assets later.
I don't want anything. Just my name back.
You're half of the house?
Nothing.
I'll give you something.
I'd rather you didn't.
You expect me to send you into the world with nothing?
I just want one thing.
What?
Edward.
You're not having him.
I want you to take Edward.
They said it would take 6 months for the divorce to be final, but it was nothing like that. It happened in like 5 minutes. It happened in 14 years. It felt like 14 years, and then 5 minutes. It felt like shame I'd signed on that page. The guy's name was Karl. Isn't that the rub? My wife had an affair with a religious freak who shared my name. I guess she'll never scream out for the wrong guy at the height of orgasm. I met him once, just trying to grab lunch at a sandwich shop, and they were there. And this Karl is like 10 years younger than my wife, 14 years younger than me. And he smiles at her like he likes her, like he's crazy about her, like she's been teaching him new things in bed, like she takes it up the ass for him. And I'm supposed to just take it because we're divorced, because she's my wife and they have to be doing it even though they're Christians. I was never going to believe that they were just holding hands. This Fundy was fucking my wife. Clearly, fucking my wife. My wife, my space, her body, mine. My wife is fucking Karl, and I'm free. My wife can hardly look at me in the face. Oh, she is so fucking Karl. An electrician. She's fucking an electrician. I don't understand. My wife.
Pregnant. I'm pregnant.
It's not mine.
I'm not telling you because it's yours.
I just let it linger there in the air because what does a husband say to an announcement like that?
I'm not telling you because it's yours.
You're 43.
My baby will be all right.
It's not mine. Of course it's not mine. I haven't slept with my wife. Karl with a C has slept with my wife. Karl has been touching my wife, twisting her nipples, going down on her. Karl has been doing all the things that I have been wanting to do. But the truth is, that's not what I thought. Not about Karl sucking my wife. Not about my wife sucking him. Not about the size of his member, though I was convinced it must be exquisite. What I thought about were his genes. The fucking genes of this electrician, which were so superior to mine. The genes that would not make a genetic freak like Edward. Genes free of silence. The genes of perfection. The genes that would not splinter insanity and brilliance all into one. The genes, my genes, that had created this complicated being called Edward. And then he surprised us, as Edward was prone to do. Edward went off and did something with a mind of his own. That Edward. He made a choice. A big choice. Our little virus mutated and caused his hosts to change. Both of us. Of course, he's a genius, my son. One day, Mozart.
Karl and Virginia's home. Virginia has a box.
You're moving out?
Don't act shocked.
Just...
You'll have to deal with Edward by yourself.
You can't abandon him like this. You have to have him some days a week. Maybe we could split the time.
I said,
You just can't just wake up one day and decide that being his mother is too hard. Parents don't get to choose.
don't upset the baby.
How have you been feeling?
Crazy to do this at my age. Don't warn me of the genetic liabilities.
I wasn't going to do that. Does the doctor say everything's all right?
Everything's fine.
Congratulations. I hadn't said that. I was selfish. I think this baby is good.
You think my pregnancy is good?
If it makes you happy.
I appreciate your blessing, I think.
And this Karl is good to you?
I'm going to go finish packing the car now.
You're avoiding the question.
We have our troubles like other couples.
You already have troubles?
Like other couples.
Are you moving in with him?
See, I don't feel like I have to answer those kinds of questions anymore.
You've never had to answer my questions. I don't tell you everything.
I'm well aware of that.
I withhold all the time.
I'm glad you see it.
It sounds like we've been operating from two different paradigms.
Worlds. From two different worlds. And I can't live in a world without God.
Virginia feels a pain in her belly.
Whoa.
What?
She just moved a little. It starts like that. You find yourself holding on, waiting for each little movement, some proof that the baby inside you is okay. Then it starts beating you up from the inside out. And you're like, shut up. Shut up. I know you're there. Calm down. Be quiet. Go to sleep.
What are you talking about?
Life, your favorite subject. Why are you letting me off the hook?
I like you.
Thanks.
And we have something here.
I'm pregnant by another man, Karl.
And to the extent that that is my fault, I apologize.
What is this?
Tolerance. You're right about me. I believe in change. Don't go, Virginia. I'll help you raise her. We can be good together. We can have a son and a daughter.
I don't know that it's a girl.
You wanted a girl.
I love Edward. I just can't do this anymore.
I'll help more. I promise.
I can't skip out on the other Karl. God, I hate my life. I'm a despicable mother.
Maybe it's best that you go. If that's what you need to do it.
Do you want me to come back and have his baby?
Act independently. Do whatever you would do.
We'll be in Santa Ana. It's not that far.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm moving out of state or to Bakersfield or something. I've got to pack the car.
Are you sure you should be lifting things?
I'm fine, Karl. The baby's fine.
You don't have to go.
No, I have to. I have to leave. I have to stick to my decisions. I have to look the baby in the face and pass something on to her, be a decent mother for once. I have to create a child in my image who doesn't terrify me.
Well, she didn't say that. Why did she have to bring in another vector? Someone she dreamed I would be if I had just some slight adjustment to my personality, like the first letter of my name, the quality of my heart, the level of my disclosure. Those are the things she seeks. She seeks them. My wife. Edward would watch us those last days before his mother was showing. I always emphasized how much I wanted him. I tried not to imply that she didn't want him, but I know there were days I did. Too hard to keep our disappointment from him. Too much spilled out. Too much truth.
A shift. Edward, alone in his own space, accentuated by colored light.
I watch the water. today. I hear the din of their voices in the house and then nothing, as if they have chosen to follow me into my silence. Then I hear my mother shout religious dribble behind my father's back. Why, oh, why won't he believe? My father silences himself. I see the anthill in my backyard and admire how they work together in ways that humans never could, all focused on a common goal of building that hill while we dismantle our house, board by board, brick by brick. We take down our house. We dissolve our house into the sea. I'm a little boy, or so they say. I'm 13. I have the mental development of a 6-year-old and a 45-year-old. Some kind of flutter of the brain. It pains my parents to know all that goes on inside me. It pains them that they know they can't reach me. I pain them. I take the bus. I love the bus. The bus sends me places I could never know. I look up schedules on the internet so I don't have to use my voice to call. So I don't have to be caught asking questions, having curiosities, bothering others. I do this while they're at work or at church. I live my life in the few moments where they do not occupy our house. I shove my life into these seconds in time that are truly private. I watch my father only when he does not know I am watching him. I read his work while he's at school, teaching others, investing in others while I am home, fallow and silent. TV-induced coma, they say, or some kind of catatonic, or some kind of brilliant boy, the boy we always dreamed of, a reflection of ourselves, a distortion of who we are at our worst and at our best. Our boy, no longer spoken with pride. No one to fly a kite with, no one to take to the beach. Comfort in that ocean. It is like my heartbeat every time we drive by. Every time the wheels of our car touch the asphalt on Pacific Coast Highway, I am sane again. Mind is stuck on a favorite place of that road. It is a dip in the road in Laguna Beach. There's a gazebo on the hill overlooking the ocean there, and every new owner paints it a different color when he takes possession of it, as if the paint will somehow cause the true transfer of property to the new person. I love that dip in the road. I wish my father would drive by there. I mentally beg for him to pass by, but he always takes the other route. I love the way it dips down, and at the bottom of the dip lies the beach, even with the Pacific Coast Highway, as if we made a right, we could drive right into the ocean there. And there's a small pier, and my father and I fished there once when I was a little boy, and we watched fireworks from there once, even though it had a terrible view. We could bury ourselves in that dip. I love that dip in the road. In my dreams, I see it. I can drive, and I'm older, but I'm so caught up in life that I miss it. I never take that road. I chide myself for never taking it. How could I live so close and never pass that dip in the road? How could I be so occupied with the inland path, the interior, that I miss my favorite place? Someday, I will be wealthy, and I will own that gazebo, and I will paint it dark green, like a fern. The ferns my father studies in his papers, the ferns that have reached extinction because they were never challenged to or refused to change. I made sandcastles there once at the beach next to the dip in the road. I made sandcastles there. I remember spending all day on them, praying to keep the tide at bay, dreaming that they would be there tomorrow, but knowing they would wash into the sea. And we would do field trips, my father and I. I would look at the tide pools, learn that even an injured starfish could grow back an arm, learn that barnacles had life. I had abalone once. It still lingers in my mouth, chewy yet dense, like the sea. To eat abalone is to digest the sea, to hold the sea within oneself, as if barnacles could grow in your stomach, and the shell, beautiful when wet, dull when transferred to the windowsill of my room. All seashells die when they're taken from the sea, but we still take them in hopes they won't. My mother sees herself as a seashell, away from the water, desiccated and dry. And the taste of salt in my mouth, the time I swam out and the lifeguard has to save me, and he asks me over and over if I'm all right, but I don't give him the satisfaction of my words. I play the mute child, and he thinks he's saved an idiot because I can't let him know all that goes on inside me. I just want to be in Laguna Beach. I just want to walk on the cove. I just want to fish with my father and remain undisturbed. I want all the other people on the beach to go away. Well, not the surfers. The surfers. The surfers are elegant and inner focused and never see that I'm there. I want to eat the fish on the beach. I want to have a pier to myself. I want to feel the sand in my toes and around my feet. I want to lie down and feel the sun on my face. I love it here. The water, the sea. So I take the bus, and I don't leave a message because I don't want them to know what's going on inside of me. I like being the idiot child. It's simpler that way. It saves us many conversations. It saves us a lot of concern. I take the bus, and my feet still dangle in the chair, and no one sees me. It's not a crowded bus, but there are people returning from work. My digital watch reads 5:47 p.m. There are people in uniform, service people. The driver has the radio on. The sun sears into my eyes. We reach that spot, that dip in the road, and I have pulled on the handle in order to get the bus to stop, and I exit the bus in the back. Only one woman, an overwhelmed woman in uniform, notices my departure, and I wonder if she will become part of the puzzle they try to piece together, the sole witness to my departure. I compulsively look up at her, and in her eyes reads, "Stop." But I can't stop. I won't stop. I just mount the bus and wait quietly by the public restroom until all the people are gone. It is indeed a day that all are too occupied to be worried about the ocean. All are too occupied to see that watery heartbeat standing next to them. I move towards the water, and then I see it. The UFO of sunsets, a miracle of optics. The rumored moment right after the sun kisses the horizon. So subtle that no one agrees whether or not it really exists. The green flash. I feel a slight coolness in the air and a sweet, steady lapping of the waves, like my dog and his bull. But I have to forget my dog and all those I love. I move myself closer to the water. As I feel the water lap about my feet, I move slowly into it, never having been one to submerge myself too quickly. I move into it, my legs adjusting to the temperature of the water, with each step cooling and comforting like a bathtub. a pool that has no self-control, that tastes of salt and sand, and I will myself to move into it. I feel the water now, rising above my chest as I walk steadily forward, wondering if behind me there's someone who is watching, someone who is witness, but I won't look back. I must move forward. I must implement the plan. I see the gazebo to my left, the one I would paint green if it were mine, and in all my life, I've never seen a person there enjoying the sea. I see the pier ahead, also to my left. I see the pier there, a comfort and a friend, full of barnacles. Somehow it integrated itself into the environs and become part of the water life. I feel the water against my neck, cool yet familiar. I dip my ears under. I feel the rush of water in my ears. I feel my head engulf, and with it, I see my father. I see my mother. I see our house. I see all those things I hope to forget. And I move myself underneath. I use my arms to submerge my head as I know my natural ability to float and save myself from my mind. I don't want to float. I don't want to flip over on my back as I was taught when I was a little boy. I don't want to do that. I want my face down, but still I'm holding my breath, unable to let go of my desire to survive, that cursed instinct to hold on. And then slowly, I give in. I open my mouth. I swallow the ocean. I feel the gazebo on the hill to my left, though I no longer see it. I see myself sitting in the gazebo, looking down at the sea, watching me, but doing nothing. That human has his choice, and this is what he has chosen, I say. This human has his choice. He has free will. Even my mother believes this. I miss my mother, the one she used to be. I find a piece of seaweed and grab it with my hand. I hold on to the kelp and begin to twist it around my foot. I'm asking this kelp to hold me there as my arm begins to flail, as I begin to desire the air above my head and the sky. But no, I must stick to my commitment. I must find my way underwater. I must leave myself. I must swallow the ocean. The kelp lets go. My head floats up to the surface and I gasp for air. I take it. I take that air. I want the surf to push me back to the beach. I want to take the bus home. I want to feed my dog. I want to look at my parents and tell them what I've been thinking all these years. I see a surfer to my right in a black wetsuit, inner focused, unaware of me. I see him riding the wave back in, and I want a surfboard to hold on to. I want someone to bring me in. I want to rethink my decision, and then I drown.
An accident, they called it. An unsupervised little boy wandering off to the beach. No thought that he had to take a bus and 2 transfers, that we live several miles inland, that 13-year-old boys do not normally surf the internet in search of an exit plan. Just negligence on our part. An embarrassment at work, a wiping away of our son. I look inside for the truth. I investigate the origins of me. Because if you look inside, you might find who there is to blame. You might find yourself. I investigate my culpability in the death of my son. My guilt like kelp ropes at his feet. Yes, we showed him how to turn kelp into a jump rope, my wife and I. Yes, we played sandcastles and buried the child in a deep, big hole so only his head sticks out. I'm guilty, as charged. I failed my charge. No excuses. I blame myself.
Karl pulls out a smoothed piece of glass out of his pocket.
You took a memento.
A smooth piece of glass.
You took a memento.
I found it in Laguna Beach when we went to the site where Edward... Is it criminal of me to take a memento? To accept an object which extended itself to me during my time of grief?
You took a memento, and for that, I'm not certain I can forgive you. For your distraction like that, for your focus on anything for other than a split second than the task at hand. Then that heart-piercing truth you'd gone there to face. You'd do anything to tell yourself that you are all right. But are you? Really? All right? Doubtful, I say. Unthinkable. Because it would be wrong to be all right. It would be criminal, sociopathic. I'd have you arrested for being all right. I'd have them imprison you. I'd have them lock the door behind you. I'd have them take your writing paper away. I'd deny you the dream of finishing your book. I'd make you attend to us, to me. I'd ask you to spill your blood on the sand like a story. I'd ask you to bring him back.
Karl moves to a space that is the past, reliving it as he speaks.
My Mexican father and I eating silent meals of beans, tortillas, and a dash of chile in the kitchen, with the windows always a crack open because my dad liked a breeze. I called him Dad, nothing bilingual or in Spanish, just Dad. My father was a mechanic, and he understood, like no one I've ever met, how things worked. But he never let anyone in. Maybe words weren't really necessary in a house like that. Maybe I don't hate him as much as I say, or see the depth of his failure as much as I say. I see his failure in me. Because, you see, I can make things work mechanically. I've agreed to write a book, a treatise, an explication of all I understand and some of which I don't. Because if I can put together a man and his theory, I might have something for you. This book will no doubt determine my supreme culpability in Edward's death. A guilt I've admitted cannot be expunged. My life's defining moment determined by another. Such a surprise because I am told I am a genius. Not at the university. I am told that out in the world. When I publish. My publisher thinks I'm on the verge of discovering the perfect merging between scientific theory and human heart. He suspects I stand on such a precipice, a cliff which is downright revealing of my deepest fears. Revealing that I'm very much afraid of heights and change and genes with pathologies that we hope never play out, but compulsively do.
Maybe God does not hold the whole world in his hands. Maybe sometimes he just lets go.
I've considered starting my book with a number of words. I can't begin.
A shift, the present.
They're waiting for me to finish my book. I'm waiting for me to start. It'll be a book for the masses. A missile for life.
I miss your Catholic wit.
My white wife.
It's only just a visit.
To collect the rest of your belongings. I want to run my fingers through your hair. I want to see you lay in the sun and watch you burn. I want to rub aloe vera gel on your skin and soothe you. And then I want to slide myself inside you, like we used to. I want to destroy all evidence of the past.
Will you? Will you destroy all evidence of what we've created? Of the picture? Of the boy? The sorries we never hear lest they be said at the wrong time, too often or too late? Everyone is staring at our wounds.
Breathe.
And then?
Breathe some more.
Then all we're doing is breathing.
We're getting through.
I can have my baby on my own.
I'll turn myself inside out for you, for her.
You will.
Final confession. The addiction module failed this family. Static states just about made us extinct. I was trying to identify which of us was the toxin and which of us was the antitoxin. And then I realized the theory didn't fit. It didn't fit. Us. I thought if you changed, you'd leave me. I apologize for my envy of God.
I don't know where I stand with God right now.
Oh?
Don't sound worried. He's only struck one of us dead. Did I tell you about Karl and his wife? Our passion ignited theirs. He was cheating on me with his ex, the slut. It won't ever be the same. Edward will always be missing.
You are my wife.
My love was just suspended. A pause. I painted you. Painters paint.
Virginia shows Karl an abstract painting of Karl and Edward and the sea.
I smudged you with my hands. I saw shades of gray. I looked down and I saw my hand in it, my hand on the boy who walked into the sea.
She came home. We sat in desperate need of a distraction.
A shift. The present. Later. A pregnant Virginia sits in an easy chair with her legs on a footstool. She has a newspaper on her lap and a pencil in her hand.
Just crank it up.
It's not hot.
I hate this. I thought if they only walked in my shoes, they'd understand. And then I looked down and I had no shoes.
We'll get through it.
Karl shuffles around.
Restless?
I don't know.
He picks up a newspaper.
You're reading. We have to talk about him. We can't just stop talking about him. We have to.
Just for a moment. I just need to get through this month's
Scientific American?
Just to get through that. And then I'll talk about him all you want.
Promise?
Promise. That doesn't work, does it? I'm changing?
Virginia indicates her newspaper.
I made a doodle. See? I like that you get enraptured by ideas. I love that about you.
You love me?
We were the only ones who knew Edward.
Now he only exists between us.
Is that as high up as the air conditioning will go?
Yeah, it's all cranked up. I could tinker with it. I could get the louvers to open wider so the air will come through. I could install a ceiling fan over your favorite chair. I could mist you with a spray bottle. I could push you in the pool. I could run you a cold bath. I could run ice cubes along your skin until you scream.
That one. I want that one.
Karl goes and gets ice.
Close your eyes. Tighter.
He begins to move the ice cube up and down her arms and forehead, avoiding her legs for now.
Turn on your side.
He lifts her foot and starts to run the ice cube over her foot.
Oh, I'm cold.
He puts his magazine back in the magazine rack.
Can you turn it down?
He does. He hands her a blanket. She covers up.
You don't have to do this. You don't have to be there for me. You don't have to comfort me with ice cubes.
I could watch you forever. Close to a window, under a good light, snuggled up to the corner of the couch. You invite me in. I'll write a theory like a story, or a story like a theory. And when the two become perfectly intertwined to the point that no one can tell the hypothesis from the fact, the imagined from the real, I'll weave three people together. How they loved each other so deeply that even the thought of their differences made them hurt. Three people who landed together on the earth and made a family, an embryo, an egg. I have a prologue for my book. At first I called it Virus. Then I realized the real title was Walk into the Sea. It opens. Here, my dear wife, is a love letter to you, chock full of my mistakes and errors, which misguided my heart, how I alienated our son. How theory can leave the man behind if he gets too far behind it. Consider this, my understanding, my apology, my proposal. Will you marry that person I promised that you nor I could ever know? A person who changes constantly, like the wind, who is inconsistent, who can't promise you anything except love. Shall we, my dear wife, walk into the future together? I could take your hand. I could give you away to myself and give myself away to you. I invite you in.
End of play. Hello, I'm Luann Schooler. I'm the Director of New Works here at Artist Rep. Thank you so much for being part of this reading tonight of Elaine Romero's Walk into the Sea, which we are presenting as part of RomeroFest, an international celebration of Elaine's work this month, in which 16 theaters all over the country and in Mexico are producing and workshopping her plays. Elaine, welcome to Artist Rep. And thank you so much for sharing your beautiful play with us. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having me and for doing such beautiful work.
Oh, thank you. Now, RomeroFest was organized by Arizona Theater Company, where you are the Playwright-in-Residence. But you have a strong connection to Oregon, am I right?
That is correct. When I was 17, my family relocated from Southern California to Oregon. So I finished high school at Amity High School and I went to Linfield College, and my family has stayed there ever since. So I go there frequently, and it's definitely another home, a second home.
Oh, that's wonderful. Can you talk to us a little bit about the inspiration for this play? How did you come to create this amazing sort of comparison of science and faith and life?
I've been interested for a long time in how people who study science apply their theories to their personal lives. I had seen many scientists do that, and many years ago, I met a scientist who had a virus theory, and he told us, my family, we all met him. He had come to a play of mine, and we got to know him, and I became very interested in his theory and the way I saw him applying it to every aspect of his life. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have a character who did that? And then somehow that theory fell short. and how in all the things that we know and we learn and we believe, we always have to circle back to just that one core thing, which is love.
And did this theory around the viruses, did that play into other interests that you already had? Or was it once you started thinking about viruses and life did that take you in the direction of this question?
I had an interest in science, and I had always been interested in characters who are complex and characters who were very, very flawed. And I thought that this story of people with very diverse ways of operating in the world and belief systems, that would be an interesting conflict. But what if they loved each other anyway, even though they were these vastly different people? And I think that, as a playwright, I'm always really drawn to people who wrong each other, people who have to like really crawl back from whatever they've done. I like to watch my characters suffer. And I want to see how far I can push them in their deeds, in their positions. And so that's what I've done with this play. It was a commission with the Magic Theater in San Francisco, and it was a Sloan Foundation had supported us. So that was really exciting too, to have that support from a science-oriented foundation for the writing of the play.
Right. The Sloan always funds plays that have a sort of scientific question in the heart of them. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, they do specifically focus on science. And so I was really excited when I thought of this character and I thought of this story. And when I proposed it, I felt like, oh, this is neat. The way it's not just about science in a scientific way, but it's about the application of ideas to our daily lives. And that's what drew me into the story and into the characters.
I think it's such an interesting way to look at faith and different kinds of faith, whether it's his faith that he says, I know what I know because I know it, which is a leap of faith into his scientific understanding. And then that in conflict with her faith, which is just so very different. And that's not a conflict that we see on stage a lot.
Yeah, I was really drawn to the fact that his beliefs took as much faith as her beliefs. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to explore that. And what is a leap of faith? I'm interested in that. And I've always been interested in spirituality as a playwright and our connection to things beyond this realm. And so for me, that's the way that this play explores that, is these ideas of scientific faith or religious faith, and when they come into collision.
And how did this family come to you? Did you know from the beginning, from your first sort of niggling ideas about the play, that it would be a scientist, an artist, and their child?
Yes. I always knew that she was an artist, he was a scientist, and they had a being. And they had this egg, this embryo that he refers to, that they had created a family. And that no matter what they do in the play or what happens, the strength of that unit can't be broken by even death, in a sense. And that's what I was focused on in the play.
I think it's very interesting that you have written this child as he's an autistic child, so they don't know his interior world. They can only sort of read onto his interior world. But in that last sort of amazing monologue of his, where we finally get to know who Edward is to himself and in himself, I think it's really thrilling when we suddenly have that different picture of him. Did you always intend that, or did that just come to you as you were writing?
I had him break that world more in the earlier drafts. And then at some point I said, no, I'm going to make him silent. And when he speaks, we're going to discover him. And that was a very exciting thing structurally as a playwright, to make that choice and to stick to it and to figure out how I was going to do that, how I was going to weight the story. But I've always been so drawn to Edward and his monologue and his world. And he was always Edward. He was always, it's so weird how plays happen, because you don't know where the characters really come from. They just come and they're there and they're fully fleshed. And these characters, I just always knew them. I always knew their problems. I always knew what their issues were. They just kind of showed up fully formed, and I invested in just writing them and exploring them and not questioning who they were, but just accepting that this is the complicated life they had created together, and to let it be, and to not try to fix these people. I think that was the way they are so flawed. There is this desire sometimes as a playwright to pretty things up, and I definitely resisted that in this play.
Yeah, they do so much damage to each other. They've hurt each other very badly, and it is kind of amazing and in a way inevitable. It feels inevitable that they would, of course, come back together after all of this and after such profound loss, that their love is that strong, even as it's such a struggle for them. So I think that's a very surprising turn, that these two characters have such love and it's so hard.
I was really proud when I thought of that ending, and I realized that they would betray each other to such an extent, and they would wrong each other to such an extent, and they would have so much loss. But there was that thread of love that they had that pushed them into whatever they had from the beginning, and that was stronger than their deeds. And I'm very intrigued by them, and how far as a writer I could push this relationship and still feel like justified in their reunion. But I feel like I think we see their connection when they don't. And I mean, that's sort of the dramatic irony of the story, is we know that they really know each other and are suited for each other. We know it, but they don't. And then they do.
Yeah. So how do you think that Walk into the Sea fits into the body of your work? Because here with RomeroFest, you have 16 of your plays and productions and readings happening all at once. So what is it like to see so much of your work produced in a concentrated time? And how does this play kind of fit into that?
Well, I really learned a lot about myself as a writer. I see themes and threads, different moments where I was playing with different types of structures. The poetry of Walk into the Sea is certainly something that I feel I'm really comfortable with in my writing, is writing that has a poetic element, but a story that, characters with issues, but embedded in a poetic world. And the structural choices that I make, with the big speech from Edward probably being the big risk I take as a playwright in this play, and noticing how I work with form, and how the different plays use form to tell the story, and how over time, as I continue to develop as a writer, I became more and more, not less reliant on character, because that's always, the beginning, but this idea that form and shape could really support a theme and help support a play. And I think, Walk into the Sea is a play where I see elements of that happening. And then I just presented this play, Halstead, which is a brand new play where I play a lot with form as well. And I also play with the monologue form. And it's interesting because I think when I was a student, I would never trusted monologues. I always end up cutting them eventually. And I've cut a lot out of this play. I think I told you something like 40% of this play. Nice. And so, and I just find myself, can I earn this? And I'm always asking myself, can the story earn this time? And I'm always intrigued by what actors do with the material. How do I manage, this? This is a language-driven play. There's just no question. And I think I'm a language-driven playwright. And in hearing my work in this condensed amount of time, I'm really hearing that. The words, the lines, the life philosophies that sneak into the lives of the characters, and how those themes that draw me, complicated people who are flawed but have love, and what does that mean? And I think that those are some common things. And I think, and science has played a role in other plays, such as Secret Things, which has a physicist. But probably this is the most science-oriented play that I have written. But I have scientists in other plays of mine, and I'm always intrigued by this one that I was just writing, that I presented as part of the festival, called When Reason Sleeps, has to do with the nuclear bombs in Japan. So there's a lot of science in that play. As I've been working on it, we presented a very rough draft on Saturday of that play. So I guess I can't say it's the only science play now that I think about it. I could see elements of my other plays. But it's interesting how the things that you're preoccupied with, that you loan to your characters, those preoccupations, and you let them kind of live more inside them in a way that you don't as a human being. And they do things that you don't do, and they have lives that are separate from you, and you can push them further and give them these dangerous existences, and you're still okay in the end because you're just the playwright.
Right. And what is the last play that is in RomeroFest that opens?
Well, it will be Hoverland, which is being translated currently into Spanish, and it will be presented in Spanish.
And if someone wanted to check that out, which theater is it?
Arizona Theater Company. You go to the RomeroFest.org, and the actual theater company is in Mexico City. It's called Foro Shakespeare, and it'll be streaming on their Facebook. And we may or may not have an English presentation of that play, but we know we're going to have the Spanish. So this has just been this exciting moment. I've written a number of war plays and border plays. I have a trilogy of border plays and a pentalogy of war plays. 2 of the war plays were part of this festival. So it's exciting to see something like Walk Into the Sea that's not part of those big projects that included multiple plays, but just stands on its own as its own play. And I'm really grateful to you all and Artist Rep and Damaso for really presenting this and giving this play an opportunity to breathe and live in Portland, and a place that I feel so close to, where my family is. And it just means the world to me, honestly. So thank you.
It means the world to us that you reached out to us about the festival, and that we were able to put this together, and we're delighted to get to work with you. And I know it will just be the first time. So everybody can check out RomeroFest.org for more information about all of this. And thank you all for joining us tonight. And especially thank you, Elaine, for your beautiful play.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.